goodness. All right, so I'm in the last section. The Fusion demo piece before this, I lost a little bit of the end of it through some glitch, but I put some textures on the bagels to get a little closer, but they're a little bit flat. And so now I'm going to kind of show you the last part. I've got all these different pictures of bagels, and this one in particular. I'm going to use the image selection tool, I think it's called. What did I say it was? No, it's not going to tell me now. Object selection. And I'm going to copy that whole bagel, and it got a little bit extra, but I'll deal with that later. So copy that. And now my rendering, wherever that went, here we go. I put some texture in here, but I turned the opacity down because it was too shiny. And so it looks really flat. It's a good start. It would be great for a image where it's super small or something rather. So I'm going to go now and take this one, and it's maybe a little too out of focus, but let's try it. Because the picture in the background is also out of focus. So I was hoping I could use this as a kind of placeholder. And the reason why we rendered that whole bagel in the background, even though we're now substituting it, is because it gives us all kinds of clues. I'm going to hold down Command and stretch this out a little bit more this way. Stretch that over a little bit more this way. So I'll do a little cleanup and fuzz here, but you'll notice that if I turn this off, this proxy bagel, if we'll call it that, gave us the correct shadows over here. There's actually some bounce light that's coming off of this that's giving me some natural lighting in here, if you will. And over here, like this whole schmear, the cream cheese or whatever that I put in here, is giving me some clues on the lighting and stuff. Now, what I would have done in reality is started with this bagel picture, and again, like I said, this is a little out of focus, and then kind of arrange my scene to match that. But so I'm going to go over here into my my lasso tool. In this case, I'm going to give it a little bit of feather radius, and this is just kind of trial and error, but I'm going to give it a 2 and see if that will give me a little bit of a fuzzy edge here. Yeah, so I'm trying to match the fuzzy edge on this because I've got the camera focal blur or whatever when I rendered it. And I'm just doing this manually. I think I could probably go through one of my tools, but in this case I want to control this a little bit more. So I'm just going step by step, deleting that extra piece of it. And I'm going to give this bagel a little bit more blur before I'm all said and done, just to match this. And now the tricky part about blurs is that they kind of it's more blurry back here than it is in the front, because it gets over distance, not over any particular parameters. So this front technically, in fact, let's try this. Let's go to 1.5. So I'll do the front a little bit different. I'm just trying to get rid of that little bit of fuzzy edge here. And now you notice I'm starting to see my bagel from below, the original bagel. And we'll fix that too. And then I'm getting this little highlight here from the plate. So I probably got to darken up this bottom edge to match my proxy bagel. It gets pretty dark in there. So let's turn this off for a second, see how it gets darker as it goes under. But that's fine. We can adjust that. And probably what I'll do is I'll leave this on and I'll lock the pixels now that I've got it all selected. And that'll allow me to, I like the darken, lighten, which is this thing, I always call it the lollipop. And if you, I don't know why my thing is not, this lollipop one will brighten and click. Why is it not? There we go. And this, the one that looks like a little pinchy hand, is darkening. And so in this case, I want the darken version of this. And I'm using my bracket keys to bracket down a little bit. And if I paint over this, I've locked my pixels, so it's only doing this. So I'm going to kind of darken up the bottom edge because it's deep in this bowl and it's not getting as much light. And then I got to fix this over here because what I'm seeing is part of the other bagel coming through. So I can either take this bagel and push it out to cover that, or I can push the wood in. So I think I'm actually going to do the bagel. And there are, what is the tool I want? Let's try warp. Edit, transform, warp. And I've got that same bagel selected, and this allows me some little bit more organic controls on how, not just sizing the whole thing, I can actually grab pieces of this and kind of push them around. So I just watched another video where this guy uses this a lot to match up a scene. And like right here, so I'm going to just push a little bit out there. And we'll hit return. And maybe from far away, this will look pretty good. It's a little, the out of focus factor is a little bit different than the background. So let me see if I try, and also I've got these weird little half moon highlights through here, which are kind of different from the original source image. But let's see if I did something. Image filter. So in the filter palette, there's all these different blurs. There's just regular blur, and then if you keep going down, there's, where did I, oh, sorry, blur, let's see, let's try lens blur. And I have not used this before, so I'm not actually sure how to use this. They didn't used to have this. Whoa. I'm assuming there's some sort of central focal point that you can blur. Focal distance. Oh boy. All right, I'm going to cancel that. That might be the right tool to use. Right now, I don't know how to use it. So I'm just going to use the one I normally use, which is blur, Gaussian blur. And you could see, you could slide this up to blurred like crazy levels. I want to do something really low. And I'm going to zoom in. Come on. I guess I can't zoom in. I could scroll over and look at this little section and zoom in. So what I want to do, let's see if we just did that. Okay, now hopefully if I do this front one a little bit more focused, it'll look better. So let's delete that. And now you can see the difference is before good, but not great. And then now this is starting to look a little bit more realistic. So somewhere in here, I have another bagel. Which one? This one here. Yeah, this is the front one's more in focus, but unfortunately it's not the whole bagel. But since some of it's covered by cream cheese, that may be okay. So let's see if this works again. If I do image selection, yeah, it's pretty good. So copy that. Now I'll go back over, whoops, to my image. Where is it? Nope, this one? Yeah. And I probably should save at some point. Just so if I crash. I'm having problems with QuickTime when it records. A lot of times it doesn't, it just stalls out in the middle. All right, so this one, I'm going to first just go Command Command A. So that selects all, and then I kind of get it a little closer. And I can hold down the Shift key, like I said, and kind of squish these around a little bit. And I'm pulling corners and pushing. And like I said, I'm going to probably, maybe I'll do one half and then, or focus on this front face and then do the cream cheese, fill in this little last part by cloning some of this. And I want it to kind of hang over the edge a little bit. So that, and you can, if you push this too much, it gets unrealistic, but that looks pretty good. So now this front part's more focused, so I might leave, you can see this back edge here is just a little bit fuzzy. So I'm going to go back to my feather tool and pick a radius of, can I do 0.5? I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe I can. And I'm going to just go along here because I'm looking at the bowl right behind it, and it's just a little bit softer than this image. And so I'm just hand deleting this little edge. Okay, and again, I'm getting some of the bagel below, so I'll have to fix that, but not to worry. And now this front edge is more in focus, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll turn the opacity down so I can see through. And the decal that I rendered on there last time, he kind of just blurred where the edge is, so I'm not really sure. I kind of like this edge coming down. So I'm going to kind of, I guess I'll just continue cutting off this edge. And then I'd also notice there's some weird thing going on right there with my decal. So I'll have to fix that up. But, whoops. I'm getting around here. Okay, so now here's the part where I got to fill in some, and then I got to get my cream cheese on there too, but I got to fill in this piece of this. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just do a little kind of wiggly selection here. And then I'm going to use my regular clone stamper tool. I could use some of these other fancy ones, but this is all they used to have. So I'm sampling some from over on this side, and I think my opacity shouldn't matter. So I got to kind of watch both of my brushes at the same time, because see right here I'm going off the edge. So that's as far as I can get. Let's pick some texture down here and throw a little bit random. And the rest of this is behind cream cheese, so I don't have to worry too much about that. But this little selection kind of allowed me to not have to worry about that edge. So now let's turn our opacity back up. Yeah, so it looks like it did it okay. So now I got to deal with just these few little points back here. So I could enlarge this original bagel, or maybe I could just, this is a super cheap, but I'm just going to use my little smudger tool and smudge some of this color. So I selected the layer below, and because it's a little bit soft focus and everything, I'm just smudging that color back underneath this foreground bagel. And if this was a whole big section, I would use my clone tool, but sometimes you can just get away with a little bit of smudge. All right, so now got to deal with my cream cheese. So let's go turn this off for a second. And I noticed I looked at a picture of some cream cheese, which is here. And it's got this kind of, this is where I was talking about that kind of waxy, where you see the light's actually coming through it. It's really beautiful, but it's kind of yellowy. So I'm not going to use all of this cream cheese, but I'm going to just, oh, actually let's use our little, I don't know if this is going to figure this out on the top. It's a little too close. Okay. All right. Option, unselect, blah, 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 blah. So I'm holding down the minus key now to take away some of my selection, because I just want the cream cheese. And now I'm going to copy that. Command C and go over to here. Command V and Command T. Command T is transform and rotate. And I like the original the texture of the bagel, so I don't want to go too far. So I'm going to hold down Command so I can kind of warp this a little bit. And the lighting's coming from roughly the right direction, so that's good. So that's part of the other reason why. And you can see over here my bowl looks a little funny. That's because I turned off my bagel, which is going to cover that up. And I got to push this back up to the top layer. And where's my selection? Yeah, so I've got this. Why is it? the original image go off the edge? Where'd it go? Yeah, it does. Okay, it's fine. All right, so right here I got this sharp edge, so bagel. I'm going to kind of cut off a little bit of this, and whoops, and maybe bring this in a little bit, trying to follow some of the natural lines of that schmear. And I noticed that I've got this little edge that I kind of left in there. It's a little bit too dark, so maybe I got to cut that off too. And again, this, you could spend hours doing this kind of stuff, but the more you care about it, the better it looks in the end. And I could probably have lightened the whole image to kind of match that shadowy effect. Because now, see how this cream cheese looks pretty good, but it looks like it's floating. And so I need to get that grounded, if you will. And I'm going to do this for a second. I'm going to turn this one off, turn this back on, both of those off, and go back to my original cream cheese just for a minute, because if I didn't do this, I might do this image selection thing again. Use a magic wand and hold down Option and deselect that part and deselect the middle. Just clicking a bunch of places. And that little piece there. So I'm trying to just get the cream cheese. And like I said, I noticed I've got a little bit too much blue in here. So let's go to Levels. Now let's go to Color Balance, Command B. And I'm going to try to make that a little bit more creamy. So I'm going to go to the highlights and push those more yellowy. And the midtones, more yellowy. See, that's doing a little green. And I like to do the shadows more red. Kills the blue a little bit. You want some kind of variation in here because you don't want it to be maybe a little magenta. No, that's bad. And actually, this doesn't really have much shadow, so it might be more like midtones. Push a little towards the red. And I'm just trying to warm that up. Let's again go a little more yellowy. Okay. And so before, let's see if this works, Command Z. There it was before, very blue. And now edit, redo. Oops, I went too far. Redo color balance, there we go. That looks more in color in tune with the rest of this. So even if I didn't cover up the entire thing with this cream cheese, I might be a lot closer. All right, so now I need my bagel textures. Boom, boom. And this looks a little washed out in the front here, so maybe I'll deselect this, and again I'm just going to kind of do this by hand. Also, this bagel edge should have kind of come around to meet this top part, so I might want to go back to my original, and I would use that warp tool, but I think I'm just going to kind of push a little bit of this around. You could see it kind of blurs it a little too much, but I don't need much. And now, in this case, that bagel and the bagel and the bowl are pretty close in color, so I think it's going to be hard to find, to get it to select properly. So I'm actually, you know what? The bagel's on top of this. So in reality, all I need is this selection below the bowl selection. Whoa, this is pretty bad selection. I'm trying to do this fast. And then I could just go right across here because all of that's covered by these other layers, so I don't have to worry about that. But now maybe I'll get in here and try my magic wand. Nope. See, when it's too close in value, it's just a little hard to do. So I'm going to go in here and use my minus. Here I'll use the plus, add a little bit in here. Here I'll go back and minus. I'm just trying to get close in here. And actually, I probably could have used this as a, whoops, fuzzy edge. It's supposed to be a plus. Add 2, minus. All right, and over here, I'm missing a little bit, so I'm going to add to the selection, holding the Shift key. sorry, shift is add and option is minus. All right, so now I got this whole, just the front edge of that bagel selected. I'm gonna go Command L first, and maybe I'm just gonna play with my midtones first and kind of darken that up. But I can see that it also needs some kind of deeper shadows. Now this is getting to look a little like a burnt bagel. So let's lighten up some of our lighter edges. And this is all purely visual. I don't know. Okay, and maybe I'm going to just paint. Let's paint some color on here. So I'll pick some of this. Actually, first let's fix this little area right there. Don't like that. This is where this little Band-Aid tool comes in. So it's spot healing brush tool. And because I got this selected and this goes under this, I think I could just paint over this, and then it will automatically kind of look around the surroundings and see what's happening there and try to fill in the blanks. This was a decal that I applied that didn't go all the way around the edge, so I'm going to kind of just blend this area a little bit, see what happens. And sometimes you got to kind of do a couple passes. And I could see what's happening is it's this area right in there that's a little bit weird. So let's do that. Like I said, I was going to paint, so I'm going to pick a big old soft airbrush. I like this one, soft round pressure opacity. And I'm going to actually pick a color. So I'm going to say this color. And instead of just normal painting, I'm going to color paint. And I'm going to use my bracket keys again to kind of bracket this big brush up. And I'm basically just painting that color in, so I'm not actually messing with any of the textures or anything. It's giving a little bit more of a crispy effect there. There's something funny going on here. This all looks a little bit washed out compared to that crispy stuff on the top. So I'm not sure what I would do, but let's try levels again. So let's see if I darken this up. Push, no. Yeah. That's all. Maybe if I just push this one over. Nope, sorry, this one. This kind of just darkens everything, but it kind of grays it out. So again, burnt bagel, not so good. Then let's try this. Let's pick a color up here. And instead of color, this time I'm going to just darken. That means that it's going to take all the lighter colors and get them darker to match that color. And maybe I'm just going to do the little top edge right here. Because our lighting is coming from this way, so especially this stuff over here shouldn't be lighter. And let's do that. And then last thing, let's go back up into our cream cheese now. And I'm going to just do this. I usually don't use this layer effect, but let's see if we can do this. Layer style, drop shadow is what I want. Drop shadow. And I don't know if you notice that little hint of it. See if I pull it down, it's getting a little bit more. And I'm going to, let's see, size is actually how fuzzy it is, which is good. Spread kind of pushes it out. Distance we just messed with. Opacity, see if I turn it up too far, it's too dark. But a lot of times I push this all the way to the end, and then I back up until it's believable. And the other problem is that it's too black, so maybe the color is wrong. So let's pick a kind of warm browny color instead. And then maybe that will be a little more realistic. And all of this is like, I read this thing, it said all photo retouchers, their best work goes unnoticed. That's kind of what you're striving for, is to not have people look at that and go, oh, that looks fake. You want it to look real. Okay, so let's probably fuss with this a bit more, try to get this underside a little bit better. The blur factor's not quite right. What I've done before, let me save this again. is let's try my blur technique. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop this. I would do this big blur gradient across here, but I think in the interest of making sure this works and time, we'll call this pretty darn close and done for now. And in reality, I want, you know, cup and a knife and napkins and environment and things, but I'm just showing you how to get the food in here. And again, if we go back, you know, that now looks a little bit, I messed up some of it, but it looks okay. Doesn't look great, but like I said, if I were rendering this as a small little object in an entire restaurant scene, I probably could get away with that. And it gives me all the lighting cues and the information I need to kind of get a little bit closer. Let's try this. Actually, I am going to do one last thing. So this is all sharp, and then it gets really fuzzy really quick here. So I'm just going to take this cream cheese and see if I can make a big fuzzy selection. So now I'm going to use the feather radius of like 20, let's say. And sometimes it's a little hard to tell, what does 20 mean? I have no idea. And so what I'll do is I'll just delete, I'm in that layer, and I'll delete it and see how fuzzy it is. Undo that, and that's not enough. I want more like maybe 40. And I think I have to draw this again. So I'm going to go across, delete that. Yeah, so that's a more gradual fade. Oops, ZZ. And now I'm just going to add a little bit more blur to that. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And not much. Sometimes just like 1 pixel will do. Here I've gone to 1.3, fine. But I've also got to do that bagel below it, which is this. So I'm just going to leave that same selection and do the same blur. But I've moved into that layer. Filter. And the last filter that you've done is stays up there. So let's do that. And then that kind of gets this focal point up here, and then it starts blurring, and then it gets more blurry as we go along. So that's my little shortcut. All right, I think I'll call it. Thank you for watching. This is Brian Galassa, working in Fusion and Photoshop.